When you think about the business world, most of us picture this fierce, head-to-head fight. It's a constant battle for market share where everyone's fighting over the same customers, the same shrinking pool of profit. But what if there was another way? What if you could just leave that fight behind entirely? Today, we're going to dive into how to do just that.
I mean, really think about that for a second. We're all trained to obsess over the competition, right? We study their every move. But what if the real path to massive growth isn't about beating your rivals at their own game, but about looking where nobody else is even thinking to look?
And this slide right here, this is the core idea. On one side, you've got the red ocean. That's the market space we all know. And it's red because it's bloody from all the competition. But on the other side, you have the blue ocean. That's the unknown, untapped, uncontested market space. And the goal here, it's not to outcompete anyone. It's to make the competition completely and totally irrelevant.
So let's spend just another moment in that red ocean, because let's be honest, for most businesses, this is just reality. It's a world where you're running harder and harder just to stay in the same place. And this really spells out what so many of us feel in our gut, right? In a red ocean, the industry boundaries are set. The rules of the game are known by everybody. But as more and more players jump in, the space just gets jam-packed. Your products start looking like everyone else's, they become commodities, and suddenly you're forced to compete on price. It's a zero-sum game where for you to win, somebody else has to lose.
Okay, so how do you get out? How do you escape that trap? Well, the answer is a pretty radical shift in how you think. See, the only way to beat the competition is to stop trying to beat the competition.
And the absolute cornerstone of this whole thing is a concept called value innovation. Now, for decades, business strategy has been all about this painful trade-off. You can either offer more value, but at a higher cost, or you can offer reasonable value at a lower cost. Value innovation just throws that idea out the window. It's about figuring out how to raise the value you give to buyers while at the same time driving your own costs down. You're not choosing between being different and being cheap, you're doing both.
Now, this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do it? Well, the cool thing is, Blue Ocean strategy isn't just some high-level philosophy. It gives you concrete tools to go out and find these new markets.
And to do that, you first have to get a really good look at the current map. You need a way to see the competitive landscape clearly and understand the rules that everyone else is playing by.
And this is the tool for that. It's called the strategy canvas. See, along the bottom, you've got all the key factors an industry competes on, in this case for the US wine market, and on the side, you have the level of offering. And what's wild is that you can see both the fancy premium wines and the budget wines were basically competing on the exact same stuff, just at different levels. They were stuck. To break out, you have to ask what factors can be eliminated, what can be reduced, what can be raised, and this is the big one, what can be created to forge a totally new path.
Okay, so seeing the current market and figuring out how to change your approach, that's half the battle. The other massive piece of the puzzle is figuring out who to target. And for that, instead of obsessing over your current customers, you've got to look at the vast unexplored ocean of non-customers. And these non-customers, they come in three main flavors. You've got the people who are just on the edge of leaving your market. Then you have the ones who've made a conscious choice to refuse your market. And finally, you've got the people who've never even considered your market in the first place. The real magic happens when you figure out the common threads. What's turning all these different groups away? That's where you find the clues to unlock massive new demand.
All right, let's look at some iconic examples, because that's when this stuff really clicks. Let's see how it works in the real world.
Cirque du Soleil is the classic case study, right? They didn't try to build a better circus, no. Instead, they looked at the non-customers of the circus, adults, who'd much rather go to the theater. So they got rid of the super expensive and controversial stuff like animal acts and star performers, and they created something totally new. This incredible blend of circus art and theatrical storytelling that people were happy to pay a premium for. And think about Apple with iTunes. The music industry was in this losing war against illegal file sharing. But Apple saw the non-customers, all those people who refused to pay $15 for a whole album when they only wanted 1 or 2 songs. By offering legal, high-quality, 99-cent singles, Apple didn't just compete with pirating, they created a whole new market for digital music that made illegal downloads pretty much irrelevant for millions of people. Southwest's stroke of genius was realizing their true competition wasn't other airlines, it was the family car. They targeted that huge group of people who would drive for hours for short trips because flying was just too expensive and a hassle.
By offering no frills, low cost, frequent flights, they basically invented a new market for short haul air travel that just didn't exist before. And then there's Pret a Manger. They saw two groups of non-customers: busy professionals who wanted fresh, quality food but didn't have time for a sit-down restaurant, and people who were just fed up with typical greasy fast food. By combining fresh ingredients with grab-and-go speed, they created a perfect blue ocean right in the middle of the lunch rush. So you see, this isn't just about a few lucky companies hitting the jackpot. It's a strategic way of thinking that, really, anyone can adopt. So let's just recap the big ideas here. You have to be willing to question everything, all those long-held assumptions in your industry. You have to shift your focus from what your competitors are doing to what your buyers truly value. You've got to look past your existing demand to that giant overlooked market of non-customers. And finally, you have to break that false choice and go after both differentiation and low cost at the same time. And that really brings us to the final and most important question. Every single industry out there operates on a set of unspoken rules and assumptions. And the biggest lesson from Blue Ocean Strategy is that your greatest opportunity is hiding right inside those rules. So take a hard look at your own world and ask yourself, which of those rules is just sitting there waiting for someone like you to come along and break it?